Ever wanted to play Hearthstone in real life? Well, you finally can. With 1,148 physical cards comprising of a complete basic and classic set, hero cards, tokens, and even some fan favourite extras. This is the first ever tabletop adaptation of Hearthstone. So this all started one day when I was hanging with my friend, and he introduced me to Yu-Gi-Oh! As a past professional Hearthstone player, I figured that I'd be able to easily slide into another card game without any hassles at all. Then, we started playing. Sadly, I got stomped on. Turns out, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was not very beginner friendly, and I had to play catch-up on so many mechanics. Tribute summons, XYZ special summon, fusion summon, face down, losing on your first turn. What is the weird compass? I can't just ignore his monsters. Exodia isn't the best deck? And that's when the thought came to me that surely recreating Hearthstone for the tabletop would be easy, make winning easier for me, and also be a quick, simple process. So, with Hearthstone having a metric ton of cards at this point, many new mechanics and a bunch of new rules around them, there is no way I was going to make a decade worth of cards for the tabletop. So, I started investigating what sets I could easily include. I had originally decided on including Goblins vs Gnomes, Curse of Naxxramas, and the classic set. So, I opened up the Hearthstone wiki, looked at the cards list for GVG, and the first card I see already looks like too much work. Clockwork Gnome. Seemingly innocent, but requires spare parts. To support a two-player game of Hearthstone, with both players running spare parts, I estimated that I would need 2 copies of each spare part, making the total extra cards 28, which was too far out of the scope for this project. On top of this, the random effects from Piloted Shredder, Piloted Sky Golem, Blingtron 3000, Sneeds, Unstable Portal, and Nuptulin would need to be supported. As I did not want to rework these cards from this set, I decided to skip the set entirely and move on to Nax. Looking at Naxxramas, I also found some problem cards. Deathlord would be a very annoying card to include in a physical game as it would require a lot of deck manipulation, Web Spinner would require the reprinting of all beasts, and Duplicate would also require the reprinting of all minions. Once I noticed how many cards would need to be fixed to make these smaller sets work, I decided to point all my efforts to the basic and classic set. As someone who basically quit Hearthstone since the release of the Death Knight class and someone who sorely misses the classic ladder they released, I decided that I was going to recreate that nostalgic version of the game. With all the bells and whistles like Ragnaros, Sylvanas, Illidan as a card not a class, it just felt right to go in this direction and make the first iteration of the game in a physical format. This would also have the added benefit of Blizzard not being able to tweak with the balancing of these cards, as they don't have a warrant. But like with the other sets, I ran into some issues. The first issue being that Blizzard quite early on made tweaks to some cards in the game to help make the metagame more healthy, and as this is a physical game, it will not be as easy to nerf cards once printed. So, I had to decide what cards to nerf myself. In the end, I went with Unleash the Hounds, Eaglehorn Bow, Leroy Jenkins, Flare, Gadgetzan Auctioneer, and Soulfire. This should hopefully get rid of prevalent decks like Miracle Rogue and Aggro Hunter from being played over and over again in this game. And let's be honest, no one liked Leroy at 4 cost. Now, one card that I have missed in this list is Starving Buzzard. This card, printed as a 2-mana 2/1, was absolutely insane. As deserved, it got a nerf, but in my eyes, the nerf just made the card unplayable. So, I have gone out on a limb, and instead of making it a 5-mana 3/2, I made it a 4-mana 3/2. Hopefully this doesn't make the card the insane, broken mess that it was at 2 mana, but doesn't make it unplayable like it was at 5 mana. Next on the list, Murlocs. Not until 2016 were the effects of Murlocs restricted to only your side of the board, not your opponent's. As this makes it a lot easier to manage all the buffs given to Murlocs, especially in a mirror match, I thought this change was worth applying. One of the other changes I made to make the game more playable on the tabletop was to generify 1/1, 2/1, and 2/2 tokens into amalgams. This means that the amount of unique cards printed goes down, and it also makes it easier to play with certain cards that summon tokens, as you don't need to fish out their exact token. However, more tweaks still had to be made to make the game play better and feel better. Some cards in the classic set that seem simple enough in a digital setting just do not work in a physical one, while keeping the game easy to track and simple to learn as a new player. The first example of this is Faceless Manipulator and Mirror Entity. These cards rely on being able to summon a perfect copy of an existing card, which in theory you can do, but would not feel the same without having extra copies of the card printed. Next up, Elite, Tauren Chieftain, and Geblin Mechatork. The main reason these cards were omitted was purely because they generate a large amount of cards that can only be generated through playing them. These cards in general were never super meta defining, so I feel it is safe to skip them from the tabletop version. Finally, the last card we are exempting from this set is Nozdormu. The problem with this card is that in a digital game it is impossible to make an illegal move. In a physical card game, questions around rules and your opponent pointing out something you missed can be commonplace. Putting a clock on this process can just open the game up to confusion, illegal moves going through, or bad faith opponents running down the clock. Now for the silver lining in all this. As we have removed 5 cards from the pool, we need to add 5 cards to the pool to make the game have the exact same amount of cards. So, replacing Mirror Entity is Potion of Polymorph. To somewhat compensate for the loss of the effect summoning an exact copy of a minion, we have an effect that basically negates the minion that gets played. This also has the added bonus of keeping the exact same amount of secrets in the set for mages. Replacing Faceless Manipulator, I decided that Fel Reaver would be a suitable replacement. While the effects definitely do not line up, I feel that Fel Reaver is another card that at 5 mana can be played and have a huge effect on the game. For the 3 legendaries left out of this set, I decided to go a little bit off script while replacing them. As there are technically no rules in what cards I can and cannot introduce, I decided that some cards that are held near and dear to my heart should be included. This is why I've decided to include Lotheb, Reno Jackson, and Sir Finley Mergleton. Honestly though, I'm not sure how well a Reno Jackson would perform with just the classic set offering him cards, but I wanted to give it a go. Finally, Priest. The classic Priest had lots of cards that would generate copies from the opponent's handed deck, which sadly would not be able to operate well in a physical format. Due to this, Mind Vision, Thought Steal, and Mind Games would not be able to be included, as it would really not work in a physical format. In place of these cards, I replaced them with 3 different Priest cards. Scarlet Subjugator, added in the reworked Priest basic set, is a 1-mana 2/1 that would give an enemy minion -2 to attack that turn. As I feel that effect would be too good in Classic, however, I tuned it down to only be -1 attack for the turn. Honestly though, I'm not sure it would make too much difference, as let's be honest, Priest in the Classic set was basically unplayable. Secondly, I decided that the flavour of Thought Steal was cool, but as it wouldn't be able to work in a physical card game, I should rework it myself. Instead of getting 2 copies of cards from your opponent's deck, I decided to change it so your opponent would reveal 2 cards from their hand and then allow you to draw a card from your deck. This keeps the knowledge gaining aspect of the card while still allowing you to actually gain some value by drawing from your deck. Was this a good rework? Was there another similar 3-cost card that I could have used instead? Let me know in the comments below. Finally, replacing Mind Games, I decided to use Power Infusion. Again, coming from the reworked Priest basic set, this card slots in at the same mana cost while helping improve your board. So, we have a list of cards, tweaks to make the cards more suitable for the tabletop, and are finally ready to get everything working. This is where the absolute GOAT of this process comes in, a website called HearthCards.net. By the way, I'm not sponsored or anything, I just really like this website. This site allows you to create custom Hearthstone cards, and at the end will provide you with a PNG of a lovely image of the card, which is perfect to be printed. Not only do we get the PNG from this website, it actually has an import feature that allows us to type the name of the card we want and load it on. This saved me so much time from having to transcribe every card onto this website, grabbing artwork from the wiki, and just absolutely saved me. Now that we have all the cards in image form ready to be printed, we need to find out how to actually get them printed. My first idea was to use a website like makeplayingcards.com to be able to easily print them out in the correct format and everything. Sadly though, the PNGs did not fit well within the template that they provide and would have caused problems at the printing stage. Not only this, but the entire set that I would want would cost over 400 Australian dollars, so I had to find something else. Luckily for me, an Australian office supply chain called Officeworks offers bulk printing. So, after compiling all the PNGs into a folder and definitely not using ChatGPT to write a script to put them on a PDF, I finally had all pages of cards ready to be printed on A4. I then sent this PDF to Officeworks, and without any concerns for copyright, they provided me back my 128 pages ready to be cut. Sadly for me, cutting was a way more tedious process than I thought, but once they were all cut, I put them in sleeves and they were finally ready to be played with. So, if you have made it this far into the video, you are probably wondering how to get this for yourself. If you are interested, I have a separate video on how exactly you can make this, which you can find in the first link in the description. I also have the instructions on the GitHub repository, so if you prefer reading, you can go there. Again, the links for all of this can be found in the description. I do have plans to make a companion app to help track different parts of the game, along with designing a custom expansion of my own. So if you want to stay updated with that and follow me on this journey, a sub to the channel would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.